What's up guys, it's Mr. Azai here. So today I believe I have come up with a plan for clans together to be able to fight against these very popular high-paying players who use the Gendarme Mings and camp at the back of spawn on larger maps. Now people really haven't been liking this tactic, and it's unfortunately extremely effective. In my last video I did go over why those weapons aren't that great, but considering that the players who have enough money to get their hands on those weapons often also have enough money to level them up and to the point where they're extremely powerful and can completely destroy your own robots, it makes it so that they do a lot of damage. They're very powerful and they're very difficult to ignore. So, however will we be able to fight this Ming invasion? Well, I've actually devised an entire strategy that you and 5 of your teammates can do. However, you have to be you have to be a clan, you have to be like talking to each other on comms, you have to be able to coordinate yourselves and maybe practice this a little bit in a practice game, custom match, whatever. Anyway, you might actually notice that there's a lot of similarities to this to one of the previous metas, and I'm going to show all of the possible things that the Mings could try to do to get around it, and how you can solve it. If every piece of your machine, every piece of your team is able to do it right, then you will be able to wipe the floor with Mings. And honestly, even if you can't wipe the floor with them, they'll probably just exit their bot because they're pissed off at how effective your strategy is. They won't be able to do anything and they'll just be like, guess I'll go back in my leech or something. And then from there you could just have a normal fight, just like you would normally with normal bots. Now, first of all, I do want to note this. It is most effective that if for your team to mostly be using the Arthur Titan over the Ming Titan or the Kid Titan for this strategy. Now, it's not actually going to be present in the strategy. However, at the end of the strategy, when all of those Mings are either dead or just ejected out of their bot and their leech, it's much more powerful using your Arthurs against those leeches, and your Arthurs will definitely be able to counter them much better, so it'll give you a better success rate against a lot of those really high paying players and such. Anyway, let's get this started. So when we start, we're going to have a basic Aries train setup where we have 3 Arieses. They'll be alternating their shields, and you're going to have to play this essentially just the same way that you played your Aries trains back in the day. Hopefully most of you guys do have at least 1 or 2 Arieses lying around, so you could substitute one of your robots for an Aries. This will be an extremely difficult challenge for the Mings to overcome in itself, but I'm actually going to add a little bit to this to make it even more powerful and sustainable, because as we know, even though an Aries train might be able to completely wipe an entire team of Mings because it will always be invincible and Mings can't equip Shield Breaker, the entire team is most likely not Mings. They probably have leeches, Juns, and things with Shield Breaker and the such. Anyway, one thing that you're going to really want to overcome this is the other half of your team to be playing leeches. These guys will be supports, and they'll really be backing up those Arieses. If any leeches come in, which is going to be a likely strategy to try to disrupt your Aries train, they'll try to use leeches and hellburners or whatever they can to get into those bubbles. You'll be want to running these leeches. However, there are some specific weapon combinations that you're going to want to run on these leeches. Just as you may expect, you'll be wanting to run Coronas. A lot of players, such as myself, do actually prefer to run Storms on leeches. However, here, where you have 3 leeches, if you want to ensure that you'll actually be able to lock down an enemy leech that's trying to end your Aries train, you're going to most definitely want to be using Coronas, and you're going to want to be extremely aggressive towards them, because it's more than likely that they're running an anti-control. So to get that lockdown, you're going to have to all be pushing them, and you're all actually, the leeches might have to body block the Arieses and make sure that they're safe, because actually only one of the Arieses will be running phase shift to make this as effective as possible. Although all 3 of them can run phase shift, it will just make this slightly less effective against the Mings, but more effective against the leeches that will try to attack you. and most definitely more effective against the Aojuns that will try to attack you. So these are basically what the combinations that you want to have on everything. Your 3 Aries are going to be one to running Scourges. Now Scourges are going to be Scourges and Sparks actually. I just don't have the Sparks here in this image, but you know what I mean. Basically, you'll be wanting to run Scourges because Scourges will be able to reach Mings at that 600-meter distance that they're always flying around about. And actually, if they decide to try to get closer to you, then you'll be gaining even more damage. And honestly, I'm pretty sure that Scourges have better DPS than the Marquises and Hussars. So yeah, definitely want to run Scourges. You can also try Pulsars if you prefer. However, I just personally think that Scourges are some of the better weapons that you can run on an Aries for this specific situation. As you can see for the modules, two of these Aries aren't running phase shift. Most of your bots are going to be running phase shift here. The leeches will be running phase shift because that's just how the leech operates for the most part, and you need phase shift to be much more survivable. One of the Aries is running phase shift, but the other 2 Aries are running a lockdown module and a deathmark module. You see, this requires a lot of teamwork, so getting that Ao Ming, really taking it down is going to require all 3 of these Aries targeting it, and of course adding this death mark to it and a lockdown will make sure that that thing is fried up. Now it's likely that it's going to land or something to try to avoid all the damage, but you'll basically give it an impression that, well, it's screwed if it gets too close. Of course, the Aries weapons won't really be all that powerful against said Ao Ming. They're going to be, you can't reach out of the 600 meters, but if they do get closer, you will have that bonus extra damage. I do find that one difficult thing about this entire strategy is using one Aries bubble to cover all 6 other teammates, or all 5 other teammates, but considering the Ao Ming's line of sight, if you have some cover next to you, or you could have the leeches stationed at some other cover, or maybe I think one of the better options would be to have 2 Aries and or 4 Aries and just 2 leeches. You could really run this in any way. This is just an idea I want to give you guys. Anyway, so as I said, you can, if again, you could have them all run phase shifts that will make you much more invulnerable to when those Aojuns come along with those shield breakers to try to disrupt the Aries trains. You'll definitely be able to get around that more often. But other than that, you'll have your shields, you have all that. Now I do want to define some roles for all of these robots. So these 3 leeches are going to be your defenders. As I said, you're going to have a lot of people trying to disrupt an Aries train. Aries trains don't really fare all too well in this meta, so you're going to definitely need some backup when it comes to an Aries train. These guys are going to have to really be body blocking for you. They're going to have to run in front of the Aries and physically stop enemies from entering the shields. You might want to be running Thomas Mindred so that you have that little speed buff to help you get forward, and of course you want to be really drumming those enemies with those shotguns. But if they lock onto the Aries, you really want to make sure that they don't lock onto the Aries. However, if they do lock onto one of the Aries instead of locking onto the leeches, which it's most likely that they will try to lock onto an Aries, you want to make sure they lock onto this Aries, and you want to remember who this Aries is, because this Aries is the quote bait. If the other 2 Aries aren't running phase shift, so it's okay to run phase shift on all of them, but these 2 Aries can run those to make them more effective against these annoying Ao Mings. This bait Aries is going to be the one that you want to have in front for the most part. You want to have him really exposed. You want to have him like the most aggressive looking, all that. You want this Aries to always be the one that the leeches chase after. You want the other 2 Aries to kind of stay back a little bit, because if they lock onto this Aries, you could shoot leeches all you want and lock them down with your coronas, and this Aries can just go into phase shift and avoid all the damage. And of course, these 2 Aries here, they will be the Ao Ming destroyers. These guys are going to be using their modules to make the Ao Mings, knock them out of the air as hard. You do want to keep them, death marked. You want to keep them locked down for as long as possible. Again, I do expect that when you start doing this against an Ao Ming, it will probably try to retreat by falling down. However, being an Aries train, it doesn't change the fact that your guys are always going to be invincible with your shields to them. Again, I still, if you can try this, you can try changing the number of leeches in Aries, you can try changing the modules that they're running, the weapons that they're running. Tell me whatever looks the best. However, I think that I've accounted for the vast majority of things here, and I think that this specific loadout will be very powerful against Mings. Um, yeah, that's about it for this video. Anyway, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Tell me if you try this with your clan and if it works out, and if there's a problem, if something happens that I didn't go over and the enemies are able to break your train and ultimately defeat you guys. And tell me, what was it that happened? How did this happen? I will try to improve on this model, but I do think this basic model of having Aries supported by leeches and using those long-range weapons to shoot them out of the skies is definitely going to be a powerful strategy. Of course, there is the other strategy of having your entire team just run Avenger Aljuns and, do consecutive flying attacks, but you can always get anti-stealth and such, and there's always problems with how any strategy would work. So tell me what strategy works the best for you. This was just my attempt at making a cool little strategy, and if this helped you, if you guys enjoyed this video, please do tell me. Like, subscribe, whatever. I'm a stupid looking octopus. Catch you on the flip side.